All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm excited, as always, that you can join me. We'll go ahead and get started in just a few moments. I'll give it just another 30 to 60 seconds to let everyone file into the room. Now, I'm wondering where people might be tuning in from today, so go ahead and let me know in the chat box on the right side of your screen where you're watching from. So it's currently in private only mode, so only the presenters can see the questions. And we do that just so that you can ask questions that are specific to your organization. And if there's anything sensitive, we can keep that from being shared publicly. So if you're just joining us, I'm just waiting as people continue to join the room today. And once I see that everything looks good and looks to be working well, we'll go ahead and start today's session. Hi, Susan from Dubai. Awesome. Okay, well, that's sorted. Let's get things underway. Welcome, everyone, to today's special online event, LinkedIn China, How to Advertise B2B the Smart Way. So in today's session, we'll share with you a stack of information around LinkedIn China and, of course, B2B advertising. So we'll cover differences between LinkedIn China and LinkedIn Global versions, some of the best practices and some benchmark data, and what the customer journey looks like. And we'll also share with you lead gen for B2Bs in China and a little around how you can go about using our platform to do advertising on LinkedIn in China. I see a question, how long is this session? Roughly 60 minutes is the answer to that. Well, I've said it before and I'm sure I'll say it again, but there's little benefit in you attending webinars and not using what you learn. And so we do these education sessions for free to help you do exactly that. So please take notes, make dot points, and importantly, determine what your next action steps are that come about from today's session. Because if you do, you'll be able to clearly see what your next steps and what your priorities are. At the end, we'll do a Q&A as we always do, and you can ask your questions now or anytime that they come up during the session today. And we'll make sure we get to absolutely everything. And if there's too many questions, well, of course, we'll follow up by email. Nothing is too specific, so ask away about absolutely anything that is, of course, related to advertising and selling in China. Now, before we get into it, let's introduce today's speakers. Today, we're joined by Yuman from the AdChina.io team. Yuman has a major focus in our team on the data and analytics in marketing campaigns and identifying leverage points and opportunities based on that data. I'm Brad, and I work at AdChina.io as well, and I put together a lot of our educational content around the tech, the tools, innovations in the world of Chinese advertising, and handle a lot of our communications across email and social. Presenting today as well is Henrik, a serial entrepreneur and China marketing expert. Now, towards the end of today's session, Henrik will be joined by Jay. Jay is our CEO and co-founder with extensive experience building international teams and businesses across Europe and Asia. So Henrik and Jay will take over for the Q&A at the end. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we love doing the Q&A sessions and we're used to going a little overtime just to make sure we get every question answered. And if you'd like to get specific and ask right about your industry, your organization, your niche, please go ahead. We're happy to be specific and address your industry or your vertical in particular. And we can do that because we work with a lot of organizations across the spectrum, in this case of B2Bs. Now, to explain a little bit about who we are and what we do at AdChina.io, we help organizations, brands, and businesses to get set up and start advertising and selling into China. And just to be clear, we are a tool first and foremost, and you'll see that a little bit later, but we integrate with the top media channels in China, and the platform lets you run ads entirely in English. And so often we get asked, and yes, we can do the campaign strategy and the support side of things. And we offer that in some of our subscription packages. But if you're already working with an agency, it's totally fine to keep working with them. We can be the tool that you use to run the ads and to deliver the reports. And you can see all that data in an open, reliable, transparent way and you can continue to work with your agency partners on the strategy and the campaign side of things. Now, with that said, I'd like to introduce Henrik to kick things off and talk about B2B lead gen in China. Take it away, Henrik.
Fred, and thanks for the introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Very happy to see so many people here. So B2B in China is it's very interesting. It's very exciting. It's a very exciting time for it. And I think it's something that's very close at heart to our mission as well. Our mission with Go Digital China and Add China is really to, through encouraging trade, be a force for good in the world. And I think one of the best ways of I would say overcoming cultural challenges, misunderstandings, things like that, is for businesses to do business cross-border. Now, when it comes to B2B leads generation in China, it is a little bit different than what it is in the rest of the world. So, for example, one major challenge is that it has a completely different ecosystem. So, for example, here, this is what an international B2B leads generation looks like. You know, you have Google, you have Bing, you do paid ads on maybe Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, you know, around social media. Under other, we have, you know, influencers, we have email, offline, it's TV, and also in-person, you know, events, expos, industry gatherings. Out of these, you know, which one are available in China? Actually, the only ones that are available in China is LinkedIn and the offline events like expos. So LinkedIn is actually the only channel internationally that has been able to find a way to properly operate in China. And that's why we've decided to dedicate a full webinar focused on LinkedIn for B2B leads generation. The other one is, of course, expos, and I think that's something that businesses selling to China tend to be more familiar with. Now, it's I think maybe it's still ongoing or just finished, the China International Import Expo. I think it's just wrapping up. But looking at the Chinese lead generation, it's a completely different picture. You see, for search, we have different channels. For paid ads, almost everything is different except for LinkedIn. Same on social media. The reason why I also crossed over here is that the influencers that work internationally are not the same influencers that work in China. And also just in general, the whole like influencer industry is very different in China. The other thing is actually in China, people don't use email as much. So there's more, how to say, more is done through mobile phones, some with SMS, but a lot of it is just done through WeChat and other instant messaging. Of course, there is TV in China as well, but since it's completely different channels, we don't count that as the same channel either. So this is like, you know, the first major challenge for B2B leads generation in China is, you know, around the lack of knowledge of the ecosystem. Then there's also, for many, it's a lack of access to the market due to the culture, due to the language. We also see a lot of companies have a little bit what we call like an expo dependency, meaning that they're very good at going to events. They would show up to the expos. They would get, you know, a strong amount of leads, some good deals going on from that, but they don't, as I say, they're not able to consistently generate you know, a lead funnel from China. And, you know, this is especially a challenge now during COVID, when it's so hard for a lot of businesses to even get to China. Another challenge can be those who work, we call them like work blindly with a joint venture, meaning that they do have a local presence, but they don't really have the insight into what's going on, what's being done. And then finally is, it's the high starting cost and risk that has traditionally been associated with B2B lead generation in China. On the other hand side, which is why I think a lot of you are here today, is the opportunities, right? It's the scale, just the number of companies that are available in your industry, pretty much in every industry in China, and also the size of the opportunities within those companies. Then it's also the growth. So the B2B market in China is estimated to grow at 30% per year moving forward towards 2024. And of course, a lot of this growth is likely to go to domestic companies as well, as there is fierce competition in China, but there is a lot of opportunity for strong international businesses to conquer a lot of market share in China over the coming years. And this is also, with the challenges around the world due to the COVID, due to slowdown in the economy, China actually had a very positive growth rate in Q3, and we expect to see a positive growth rate in Q4 as well. So it's one of the markets that are actually continuing the growth. Then the third opportunity is around the digitalization, which is that, it used to be that in order to succeed in China, you'd have to find a local partner, you had to find someone with a little guanxi, some relationship, and build it through there. And, was focusing on, catching the one big fish. Now, thanks to the digitalization of China, the Chinese companies are also evolving in the way they do business, and it's becoming more and more international, similar to the way that we would do business internationally, with possibilities to both do the sales and negotiations, long distance, the possibility of starting out with smaller deals and then growing from there. So it's really, the business culture has seen a lot of development in China over the last few years. And also around that, feel free to ask any questions you might have in the chat. Jay is with us here today. He has some fantastic experience, that he can share with us. Number 4 here, I see I forgot to update the slides, so my apologies for that. But number 5 is supposed to be the 4th point here, which is around lower starting costs and risk. So thanks also to the digitalization we talked about, and also new tools like, for example, Ad China, the starting cost to enter the Chinese market has gone down a lot. As an example, to start doing LinkedIn advertisement in China, traditionally that has been, 50 to 100,000 US minimum just to get an account up and running and be able to run ads. Now with Ad China, we're able to get it started for around 5,000 to 6,000 US dollars, and that's not the cost. I mean, that's the initial budget. So this also lowers the risk, and since now there is a lot more also, smaller deals, meaning it might not be with the the top 50 companies in China, but all the small and medium-sized companies are starting to do more international business, which means that there's a lower risk associated with going into China. So it's based on these challenges and opportunities, we wanted to delve deeper into LinkedIn China, because a lot of companies have experience advertising on LinkedIn internationally, because of all the great things with LinkedIn ads in general. But doing LinkedIn ads in China is a little bit different, and that's what we'll get into now. So with that, I hand back over to Brad to talk a little bit about the key differences between LinkedIn in China and LinkedIn globally.
Awesome. Thanks. the differences between lead gen inside and outside of China. So now, yes, I'd like to jump into the key differences between LinkedIn China and LinkedIn global versions. So LinkedIn China is a separate self-contained sort of ecosystem. It can't be accessed through the global version of LinkedIn, and by the same token, it can't access any content on the global side either. So it's one of the few major platforms that have created this sort of split version to satisfy the Chinese government's requirements around censorship and so on. So that said, it's about 98% similar in terms of the interface, the features, the look and feel, updates, and the developments. So to advertise on LinkedIn China, you need to follow LinkedIn's general rules that are applicable to everyone on both versions of LinkedIn. Pretty standard stuff. You also need to follow LinkedIn China's specific rules involving not advertising, animals or animal products, credit card cash out services, debt collection services, and a few other ones that are a bit more obvious. And then on the third layer, you also need to abide by the local Chinese advertising law, which is around not using superlatives, not referencing your products by their nationality, claiming that they're the best, claiming it's, Finland's number one, whatever the product happens to be. So, and my understanding is that you can say where it's from, and it's probably required by consumer law to say where it's from, but it's about how you position it. So you can't claim to have, the best bananas in Portugal or Brazil or wherever. Another requirement is that to start advertising, the channel wants an initial deposit to confirm that you're serious. So all of the top channels in China do this. So they want that deposit, and you don't have to spend that all in one place or all at once or all on one campaign, anything like that. They just want to know that you intend to give advertising a proper shot, and it makes it worth their while to process and approve you to run ads on their platform. Because at the end of the day, the channels are responsible for any violations of the law. And so every ad is manually reviewed to make sure that it is in line with their requirements. So another great reason to use LinkedIn and advertise on LinkedIn China is that it has the third most active LinkedIn users of all countries at roughly 50 million users. I've seen some sources say 48, others 56. In the last year or so, it's somewhere around 50 million, which is pretty impressive. So what are the key similarities then between LinkedIn China and LinkedIn Global? Well, for one, they're both really great at targeting professionals and selling B2B. So similar to the LinkedIn Global version, it puts you in touch with a huge number of decision makers and industry leaders and experts. And the placements also are the same. And you're probably used to those as well, but let's take a quick look at those. So you've got sponsored content, which is your typical post that's promoted, and you've got your copy, your link, and of course the image, and it more or less behaves just like a post, except the people who meet the ad criteria see it rather than the people who are following your page. Of course, you've got the LinkedIn in-mail messages, where you've got the title, your profile picture, subject line, and of course the body message, which you can see kind of grayed out behind it there. You only pay if your message gets delivered, which is really cool. And this lets you get into the inbox of those people who are most suitable. So you can identify the people that you want to send the messages to and message them with those in mails. And finally, you have the lead gen form, which is for, you guessed it, collecting leads. So you've got this display that comes into the feed and a thank you box when someone signs up. And you can collect the first name, last name, email, company, phone number, job title, and I think there's a few other things as well. So on the pricing, it works pretty much the same as global with the CPM and the CPC for impressions and clicks respectively, and the CPS, which is the cost per send on those in-mail messages. And as I mentioned, those are more cost per delivery in how the pricing works, in that you pay once it is delivered. Now, LinkedIn China is exactly the same as the global version in that it consists of the posts, the interaction on your posts, and a mix of content types, and doing those is highly effective. Now, that said, video is one that is working extra well, I'd say. Lots of platforms are promoting it a little bit more, and it gets more engagement. So once you do have enough of a following to start doing the organic marketing with your followers, video is a great choice for that. And on a similar note, if your landing page is very well optimized, if it's hosted in or loads fast in China, and if your copy is nicely translated, that'll all improve your performance as well. Now, your ad performance is going to primarily hinge on how well your target audience is set up. Assuming that there's a market for your product or service in China, you need to connect with the right people who want to use it. So small test campaigns really are the way to achieve and identify that in a leveraged and fast way. So let's get into a few of the best practices when it comes to advertising on LinkedIn China. So on that topic, there's really nothing too special or too unique about LinkedIn China ads compared to regular LinkedIn ads. So what actually matters is whether or not you've done the strategic and the foundational groundwork. So what matters more than anything is how well you know who you want to target and how precisely you can identify them. Now, as I've mentioned, the strategies and tactics and the nitty gritty of LinkedIn advertising is pretty much the same in China. If you know LinkedIn ads inside and out, then you'll be pretty much just as effective in China, assuming your marketing is, of course, culturally adjusted and translated into Chinese. What you need to know is, what you need to do is to research and through lots of small to medium budget tests, find out and nail down exactly who your audience are, who you want to target, and the criteria that will allow you to reach them specifically. Now, they say in life that the quality of your life is based on the quality of questions that you ask yourself. And in a very similar way, the quality and the results of your marketing efforts are based on the quality of questions you ask as well. So, to help you do that, here are a few questions that we ask new organizations that are working with us to figure out and dial in some really great targeting. So, what's the size of the industry? Does the government value or consider it important? And where are the related clusters located? That one is extremely important. So in China, there are particular regions that focus on certain manufacturing or product specialities. So all of the companies that focus on particular goods are likely clustered together, or there might be multiple clusters for some verticals in a few different cities. Now, the point here is if you can identify those, then you have a massive advantage when it comes to targeting that lets you reduce your costs massively. Instead of advertising across, the whole of China, you target the 3, 4, 5, 6 cities that have a very high cluster related to what you're selling, a high incidence of businesses that are wanting what you have. And that's the major advantage that lets you get high clicks and low cost per click. And another quality question is which industries are contributing to growth and where are they located? And when I say to growth, I mean growth around the product or service that you're selling, because chances are there's an overlap with that last question. And from there, you can create lookalike audiences with organizations that you've never heard of, but you know that they're a match because they also have some of those key characteristics that you've identified already. And from there, it just snowballs. So, really, I think the best tip that I can give is to know and to understand deeply your ICP. If you know your ideal customer profile and have that documented and defined, when you have your strategy and your fundamentals ready, it becomes so much easier and to succeed and to run ads that really drive growth and drive results. And so the last point I'd like to make before I hand over to Yuman is that when you get enough traction to be doing organic LinkedIn marketing, posting without paying, that is, make sure that you're able to get some engagement in that crucial 30 to 60-minute mark, because when the algorithm detects positive responses to your content, or really any responses, likes, comments, shares, it will propagate that out further and put it in front of more people. And again, it does exactly the same thing on the global version. Well, that's everything I wanted to cover. So now I'll hand over to Yuman to talk about the B2B customer journey. Now remember, if you have any questions, please put those into the chat and we'll get to those at the end. Take it away, Yuman.
Thank you, Brad. So LinkedIn ads can be a good Kickstarter to let your brand and service know in Chinese business community. It can lead the audience to the company website and the other social media presences in the consideration stage. LinkedIn has also the lead generation function from the lead that Brad showed you, from the lead form that Brad showed you earlier, and that can be used in the decision stage in the customer journey. This slide shows the different functions that LinkedIn ads can offer in different stage, the same as LinkedIn Global. It can help to build brand awareness through sponsored content, increase the website visits, engagement, and others through the landing page, and also the lead generation and the conversion. And LinkedIn ads is very suitable for people who already have a very clearly defined target group, because it is based on the real profile data of the person, and it have a very good ability to target audience by the industry, company, business functions area, and something else. And next is the bidding strategy of the LinkedIn ads. It has 3 methods to bidding. The first 2 are automatic optimization by the overall budget or the campaign objective, for example, how many clicks you want to get from the ads. And the third one is the manual bidding. The price for manual bidding is, the CPC price for manual bidding is normally higher than the automatic optimization. In the case that if you want to boost the brand awareness, you can try to use the manual bidding, but normally we suggest to use automatic optimization. And the minimum daily budget for LinkedIn ads is 1,000 CNY per day, and this price is significantly higher than other channels in China, but because it has a more precisely targeting function, so it's very worth trial if you have a very clearly defined target group. And this page shows the benchmark data of LinkedIn China. The CTR of LinkedIn China ads is average around 0.3%, and the engagement rate is around 0.4%. The engagement rate is the sum up of the clicks and likes, comments, shares, and others. And this slide shows the IT committee size of the LinkedIn China users in different industries. We can see that most industries most people are in the manufacturing industry, and the second biggest group is government, and followed by finance and some others. The thing that this is relevant to you is that the bigger target group you have on the LinkedIn channel, the lower CPC you can normally achieve. And this slide shows a customer success story that we have recently. We have a client from the environmental technology industry, and they want to target industrial and government decision makers and researchers for their brand and their website. And the objective for this for this campaign is to boost the brand awareness of the company and also lead traffic to the company website. The ad placements we use on this campaign is the sponsored content of LinkedIn, which is the the information flow ads we have. And this campaign reached more than 16 million people and achieved more than 6 times higher than the average for the CTR, and also 60% lower than the average CPC. Because of the reason that Broad mentioned before, the good content also always lead to a better result. And that's all from me. Let's head to Henrik for the demo.
Very much, Yuman. Let me share my screen. So I'll stop the presentation, and I will share. I will share this one. Would you please let me know in the chat that you can see my screen, someone, and then I'll continue just to make sure. Yes, thank you very much, Susan. Yeah, so now we're inside a demo account of AdChina.io. So I'm just going to quickly click in through, and you can see here all the channels that are available through AdChina.io. Everything from the Tencent channels such as WeChat, Tencent Video, through to both Baidu Feed, meaning display, and also Baidu search engine marketing, meaning the keywords like Google AdWords, Toutiao, Douyin. But today we're focused on LinkedIn. So let's focus on, imagine that we're setting up a lead generation campaign. I'm just going to select a single image ad just to keep it simple and an example landing page. Then we come into the targeting. So a couple of the things that were mentioned now in the webinar, one being around music software. So in LinkedIn ads in China, you can select, of course, we have the location, we have the age, the gender, then we also have things around education, around industry, and also interests. So for example, if we look at, I would say, if we look at software, I think I saw one specific here. Yeah, everything from, you know, design software to open source software, but I thought I saw one related to music earlier after the question. So editing, let me see. Maybe that's on another one. Okay, so then let's pick another one. One was around, for example, with food and beverage around. So for example, here looking at fields of study for food and beverage sales. So one thing is targeting people who have worked within, you know, or have education, studied things related to food science and technology, you know, foods nutrition, food service system administration management. Like there's so many fields of study. We can be very, very specific around that. And it could also be, you know, related to degrees. Taking, for example, such as we are working with quite a few law firms that want to get new clients from China. We're also working with things actually somewhat within medical space. Of course, very interested in targeting doctors. We have how to say, component manufacturing, people working towards infrastructure, so targeting people who are interested or who have degrees within engineering, who have masters or doctors within that. That could also be, you know, around infrastructure. So is there any other specific questions around this? And this is just, you know, to show how easy it is to use. So it's really just depending on, you know, what's your target audience, what do you know about them, who do you want to target? And I think that's always been, you know, the strong capabilities that LinkedIn has is its users and how much it knows about their careers. And I think with that, let's move into the Q&A session. Jay, if you want to join me. Let's see, can you hear me, Jay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I hear you too. So the first question we got here is like, what type of leads can we get from China? Meaning, how far down the funnel? So I take this to mean, you know, is this someone who's going to be ready to buy, or is this just someone who's, you know, just started looking? Like, what type of leads is it possible to get from China? What's your thought on that?
It's very much depending, but in general, I mean, both consumers and businesses in China, they would like to check around before they buy anything. Chinese buyers are in general more interested in knowing more from the same, of course, same brands, but also to check around the alternatives. So you can be lucky, of course, to get someone that is, you know, really ready to buy. But I would say most of them are checking around, I would say, first.
Yeah. No, and I think that's, you know, that's what we see internationally as well when it comes to B2B with these type of ads. It's, you know, it's putting into the top of the funnel really. But this goes a little bit back to what I covered in the beginning, which is that this works in China now. You know, that it used to be that it's not so possible. You'd have to really travel there, be there, go to the expos, things like that. Now you can actually have a lead funnel from China that works at a good return on investment. And I think this leads very well to a next question, which is, you know, where should we lead the traffic from B2B ads?
It's very much depending on the customer journey that you designed for your customer. Yuman covered most part of it, but from my point of view, you have to really look into the sales, what do you call it, cycle that you have in the existing processes, and see how, for example, how long it's going to take, how much human interactions is going to take, and you know, how much customization there has to be for your solution to your customers. So yeah, it can be various places. We have seen customers trying to build up a follower community, or let's say potential customer community, where they can retarget them by sending them different information and so on afterwards. We have also seen that a customer that wants to get the contact information of the customer so that they can start human interaction with them. We also have seen you know, typically software companies trying to make the conversion already, either on their website or you know, mainly on their website, for example.
And I think here it's really, you know, it like you said, Jay, it's very much around knowing your audience, right? What are they looking for, right? So it can be everything from you know, the going straight for the conversion, but it could also be completely the other side. Like we have actually several customers who built up the big global international web pages with very, very detailed niche information, fantastic information, that is how to say it is information that sets them apart from their competitors, and they put that into an English website. Then for some of them, they lead Chinese Chinese audiences through a splash landing page with more information saying what is available on this portal, what is the information that they can get there, and then send them to the English portal. So of course the conversion rates can be a little bit different, compared to if the whole page is in Chinese, but we still see that can work well. For this company, this is one of the largest within the industry globally. So for them, this is a play very early in the funnel to start showing their thought leadership. On the other hand, we have big companies who have localized these type of same these type of international web pages. They translate the content into Chinese, and then they drive the traffic directly to the pages. So in a way keep the web page as a landing page. So it very much depends on like what assets you have, and what you're trying to do. Next question follows up nicely on that one, which is what should we do with leads from China? If we get them, if we don't speak Chinese.
To say it bluntly, it's not good that if you don't have anyone that speaks Chinese in your organization, it's definitely less than optimal. Because especially the entry conversation would be great to be in Chinese, where they can be prepared to accept some information in English. But if you don't, then you would just have to try. But then you should expect, let's say, lower results compared to your best results, I would say. And by the way, actually, I forgot to mention for the previous question. So it is important to make sure that your website, no matter what that online presence is, it's usually your website. If it's your website, then make sure that your website is accessible and is loading fast enough in China, which is not usually the case.
Yeah. So on there, we've also worked with a lot of clients just to help make the website accessible. For us, that's not our focus. Our focus is advertising and marketing to drive you those leads you need. But of course, we know that there are certain things you need to have in order to do that, and we'll help you get set up if needed. On the next question is, how or actually one other thing is, because I know we've discussed that before, Jay, on what to do with the leads from China. And I think here what we discussed is that it's good to have that capacity to talk in Chinese or communicate in Chinese with them in the beginning, but now like more and more of the decision maker, and especially like the influencers and the researchers who do these type of buying are bilingual, having the English at least on par with what's average around the world. Do you have any comments on that before we move to the next one?
There are two things that we have to three things. One is leading to the other two. So actually the buying personnels are becoming younger and younger. So that's a given, right? And then second thing, that leads to two things. One is the digitalization. Their acceptance to digital and online and remote, communication is much higher. And then the second one is that their competence or capability of speaking proper English is much higher than before as well. And both trends are growing. So that's
Yeah. So basically, it's less and less of a hurdle. On the next question, it's well, it's a little broad, but let's see what we can do. So, how effective is B2B marketing in China?
Actually, that's also coming back to the previous answer as well. I think it's getting better and better in general, and also because of the sheer size of Chinese market. Of course, I mean, we have seen many companies and many of our existing customers have been. I mean, they went into Chinese market purely based on kind of the traditional model. And many B2B companies are of that kind of a size, international corporate that want to go into Chinese market. They just go there, set up a rep office or a subsidiary company or joint venture, heavy investment, or they try to bet on some partner that they found or got introduced by someone, which is very traditional. And many of them succeeded and many of them failed. We cannot say that Chinese market is better or worse than the other market in that respect. But finally, I mean, what do you call it? The risk and initial investment can be so much lower than before, than the traditional way. From our point of view and our experience, the cost and the risk of, let's say, testing your product fit in the market, testing the potential audience of your product and the brand in China is so much lower than before. And it's so much lower than the traditional way. So our suggestion is that, don't think too much in the beginning, and don't try to make too much assumption and big decisions in the beginning. Just go into the market, run a few small campaigns, and towards the target audience that you have on your mind, and then see how it goes. The cost is cheaper than a kind of than a big customer survey through a big international consulting agency. It's just get out there and try it out. It's not expensive and it's not risky.
Yeah, and one thing to add there is also, with the type of reporting that's available now through, for example, AdChina.io, this is the type of information that you can then use to plan your other strategies as well, to inform the other business decisions. And for a lot of clients, this is what we've been talking with them about when they were considering whether they should go in or not, because they were thinking, maybe we should, commission a market research report, figure out, what the market is looking like, things like that, and then we'll make a decision. And then we suggested them, how about, instead or in addition to a market report, run some campaigns, get real data, look at, with a very simple and affordable setup with, a landing page with the introduction about your business. What is it that you do, your unique selling proposition, and let's target who you think is your target audience. And then let's see what type of leads do you get? What type of clicks do you get? Who are the audience? Where are they in China? Because it's more or less guaranteed that you're going to learn something that is completely different than you thought. And compared to a market research report, this is the reality. It's not a guess or an estimation. It is what actually happens when you go to the market. So that's also something that we often recommend. And generally, it can be a lot cheaper to run campaigns than to commission, a market research report. On the next three questions all seem to be, tried to group them a little bit. So, which are the most important channels for B2B marketing in China besides LinkedIn?
Definitely. I mean, everyone knows WeChat. WeChat is good for everything. So, but again, I mean, in our philosophy, we believe in three things. If for the new listeners here, We believe in transparency, we believe in efficiency, and we believe in multi-channel. So go into Chinese market, don't let's say rely on any of the channels, but run tests and see which one is working the best for you. There are several channels that we have been using for B2B customers. WeChat is one that I mentioned. Tencent News, which is pretty big in China as well, when it comes to the audience, and also Toutiao, which is the news app, or let's say news feed app of ByteDance. It's they, I would say, tend to be the more serious, what do you call it, the serious channels, if you're kind of targeting at executives and business.
Yeah. And then on the other hand, I just want to add there is, we have Baidu as well. And I think, and what's so strong about Baidu, it's the same as Google. I mean, you have very, very specific keyword targeting. It can be, pretty much exactly your industry, your product, and the purchase intent is very high when people go and search for it. So Baidu is also, and it's very easy to get set up on Baidu now, as long as your industry is allowed. I think we, like the initial top up, we've gotten it down now to around $800 US. So it's very, very affordable to start with. And, that can start to drive the initial leads and traffic. So B2B, so Baidu is also something we tend to recommend to most B2B clients. And I think you already answered a bit the next question, which is, should we combine LinkedIn China with some other channels for B2B in China? Yes. Then on to the next one. This is a little more specific. So in terms of cost per lead for B2B leads, which marketing channel is the most affordable in China, and what are the second and the third ones?
It's definitely not LinkedIn. LinkedIn is actually among the most expensive ones, except when it comes to cost per click, for example. And then I think Tencent News and Toutiao are probably one of them. I mean, they're among the cheapest ones when it comes to cost per click. Again, I cannot say cost per lead because I don't know which industry we're talking about and what kind of how attractive they can be. And also how big the audience is. It's very, very different. LinkedIn, as I said, is one of the most expensive ones. And then I think in the middle, Toutiao and Baidu is a little bit very different, depending on the
it depends. Competition. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I would rank them when it comes to the cost per, I would say, initial lead, let's say, when they come in to look at your website.
Yeah.
So on.
And but there is I always, whenever companies ask me, especially when I go to in-person events, things like that, people love to ask me, like, how can I get more leads from China? And I always say a great place to start is, it's Baidu, but also around WeChat. The thing with WeChat is everybody's on it. If you've ever been to like an expo or an industry event in China, you see even like the head honcho, the bosses, the decision makers, if they're not paying attention to what's being said on the stage, they're on the phone on WeChat. So everyone is on WeChat, everyone is reachable there. With Baidu, it's a high purchasing intent. And with LinkedIn, what's unique, since this webinar is a little more focused on LinkedIn, is that, there again, you have an audience that is quite different. It's not as easy to target all the B2B things, in all the different apps. Yes, you can do a lot depending on your industry, your target. but LinkedIn has a little bit of some different targeting options available. So we tend to try to get at least a test campaign running to see what are the results, because very often we can get different leads from there than we can from the other channels. Even though, as Jay say, they do tend to be a little bit more expensive, but as long as you get the conversions, that tends to be an okay cost per lead in the end. So I think we have just a couple of minutes left. We have a couple more questions, but I think if there's anything you guys want to ask now, please type it into the chat. We'll see if we can get to it before we hop off. So one question is, okay, what did you do to get the 7 times higher click-through rate? Was that achieved through location targeting alone? Okay, so I think this is related to the customer case that Yuman mentioned in the slides. Are you good to answer on this one, Jay?
It's a combination. I mean, it's a combination of many things. Not only the geography, but also because I don't know, if you really start to run a campaign in our platform, depending on which channel you are looking at, but in general, we have more levers to play with. We have more targeting tools that we can play with. It's getting very different now, actually. But until recently, Chinese social media or media channels in general, digital media channels in general, know better about their users than the Western media, and they have been utilizing, or some of them have been utilizing, that kind of information for advertising already. So and again, I mean, so for the case, I think Yuman mentioned, we run let's say dozens of small campaigns, and then throughout those testing and iteration, we managed to achieve a much better result than the industry average. It takes some effort, really. Yeah. Some of our customers are very much used to this kind of a methodology compared to their ways of running tests in the West. So this is how we do it. It's not guaranteed, of course, not every time, but it's definitely achievable.
Yeah, and I think also there a big thing is, there is, I mean, if it's like if you're selling ice cream to Eskimos, you need to have a very special sauce, right? So again, it's very much depending on what are you selling and what is the need in China, right? So I think for this specific case as well, it's a high-tech client with focused on emerging and green technology. So this is something that's very, very on the rise in China. So the interest is very, 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 very high. There is not that there's a lack of information in China. It's just that just like China has a lot to offer the rest of the world does have a lot to offer to China as well. So, when you have a strong product, good knowledge around your industry, when you're able then to translate that into strong advertising campaigns, that's when typically we see, these type of knock it out of the ballpark results. And I think, so just as a last question before we hop off, because I think it's probably something that more people are wondering. So for those who are not yet in the Chinese market, what's the best way to enter the market in China as a B2B company? Because I think we've talked about it a little bit, but this is also something that's changed a lot over the last 5, 10, 15 years.
Yeah. I mean, I think I talked about that already. It is, from my point of view, we are in a new era now. there are, I mean, especially with also the pandemic kicking in, people are so much more used to let's say digital communication and digital events. I mean, yesterday we were preparing some material for some customers when it comes to digital events as well. So a lot of things will be done remotely. A lot of things will be done, let's say, online. So the traditional way of going into Chinese market, I mean, especially Chinese market, has been, quite heavy when it comes to risk and initial investment and barrier as well. But then with the Chinese market becoming more and more open and friendly to the Western or rest of the world, basically, companies, it is possible now to do it, or at least to start it without too heavy and big decisions. That's quite important to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a good place to stop it. Then we are just on the dot, or actually now 1 minute over. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you very much, Jay, Yuma, and Brad for hosting this. And yeah, I wish you all a fantastic week. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.